Hey everybody, Douglas Blair Roberts here, the Super Vader 400, and of course the brown skin human coming back at you with another movie series review intro. My previous movie series review intro, whenever I uploaded to YouTube, for some odd reason, the newest, the Crush 40 upload of Sonic What I'm Made Of, their uploaded version for some odd reason has a copyright on it, and whenever I see, and the copyright is actually not a problem according to YouTube, but if I ever want to set this account up for monetization, it will be a problem. So I'm going to do a remade version using two non-copyrighted songs. Even though this is an intro for movie reviews and rants, the What I'm Made Of will from now on this channel will only be the outro, and I'll use one of the old school non-copyrighted uploads of Sonic What I'm Made Of. The intros will feature the Sonic Heroes theme, which I haven't used in a long time, and of course the iconic We Can that I use a lot now. Everywhere on every other platform, the intros, I will use the old intro. So with that being said, let's get started right now. What's up, everyone? It's time for the second and first part to my Thor movie trilogy overview and review to set up Thor Love and Thunder, which comes out I think June or July of this year, and I quote unquote can't wait. one of my all-time favorite characters, one of my all-time favorite films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Chris Hemsworth's Thor. And this film right here, Thor 2011, in my opinion, was and still is the best Thor. This is the only version of Thor to do each character, to do Thor in each character, especially Loki, who would go to great decline after this film. Everyone, quote unquote, justice. And for an hour and 50 plus minute film, my opinion, they for the most part captured the tone and captured what Thor was about. When it comes to Thor 2011, I excuse them for deviating from the source material, because Thor 2011, because the Thor movies, like the Guardians of the Galaxy films, they have way too many characters, way too many storylines to fit it all in an hour and 50 plus minute movie. Thor should be a television series, whether live action or animated. They have way too much source material for a quote unquote film trilogy, which is why I tolerate Thor deviating, but not something like The Amazing Spider-Man or the most recent X-Men, the Days of Future Passes and First Class and Darker Phoenix based story lines, where you can really do a good, accurate version of these quote unquote stories. So Thor 2011, like I said, if back in 2011, if you would have told me that a Thor and Green Lantern and later Captain America later that year would be better than an X-Men film, which X-Men First Class was released that year, I, quote unquote, would not have believed you. I would not have believed you. But it was. These three were better. Come to think of it, when I saw these three, especially Thor and Green Lantern, the two best, in my opinion, two of the best of that year, this started a whole, my opinion, it actually didn't start till the next year, but this started a whole new era of superheroes. My standards in movies and comic book films started to quote unquote change, because Thor 2011 and Green Lantern are two films I went into low expectations with. They came out loving these films. Love this film for its story, action, drama, comedy, and accuracy and spirit of the quote unquote source material. Everything about this film is awesome except for one thing, and that was, I'll get to that at the end of this review, of course. Yeah, this of course is loosely based upon the Thor storylines from the 1960s by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. A lot of the scenes in this film are panels panels in the comic book, and the storyline is loosely derived from the storylines in Thor in Asgard. Thor before he headed to Earth, before he got sent to quote unquote sent into quote unquote Earth. Is about to be Thor's big day, and he's about to be crowned king of Asgard. However, on that day, Laufey's people, one of the main antagonists of the film, his people, the Frost Giants, invade Asgard, breaking a truce Laufey and his people had with Odin and Asgard trying to steal a giant tesseract or casket, whatever, a giant artifact. I keep forgetting what that was called. Thor, seeing this as an act of war, wants to go hunt down and kill Loki and the Frost Giants, just like Odin did years ago. But Odin lectures him, saying he's only thinking as a quote unquote, he's only thinking as a quote unquote warrior. He only thinking as a quote unquote warrior. That Thor's way is pride and vanity. That's not what a king. That's not how a king should act. Loki, on the other hand, agrees with Thor and encourages him and talks him into going to Jotunheim, the place, going to Jotunheim, which is the place that's Loki's home, with the Frost Giants reside. He goes there. Him and the Warriors 3, Vastad, Hogan, Vandrel, and Lady Sif all go accompany them there. Heimdall, the Doorsman, portrayed by Idris Elba, tells them that they must take care of business there and get back fast, or he'll have no choice but to close off the Bifrost on them to protect Asgard. Thor confidently believes they'll be finished enough in time, so they go to Jotunheim and confront the Frost Giants, the quote unquote the Frost Giants. Loki tries to do the smart thing and convince Thor to stand down and just to walk away to save their lives. However, this nearly works until one of the Frost Giants taunts Thor, calling him a princess, and Thor smiles and hits him with the hammer, hits him with his hammer, and a huge fight ensues, which Odin breaks up, and both groups go their separate ways, and Thor, Odin, Loki, and the Warriors 3 all return to Asgard. Thor gets into a huge argument with Odin. Which Odin, for endangering the residents of Asgard, Odin strips Thor of his power, ripping his armor off of him, and sending him and banishing him from Asgard, and sending him into a void that takes him all the way to Earthrealm, just like in the comic books. Thor is even wearing similar street clothes to what he's wearing in the comics when he gets sent to what's his name. He doesn't have a secret identity in this universe. In the comics, he has a secret identity similar to Shazam, and later He-Man from the 1980s. But here he doesn't have one. This is where he meets Jane Foster, portrayed by Natalie Portman, Darcy, and Dr. Selvig. Their meetings are awkward at first, but he bonds and befriends them and helps Jane Foster on her quest, who's through a bunch of science equipment is on the verge of a breakthrough, until it all gets confiscated by quote-unquote Shield. Meanwhile, Loki discovers his heritage. That he's a frost giant, and confronts Odin about it, and lectures Odin so bad that he causes Odin to enter the Odin sleep, a deep sleep called the Odin sleep, and then in Odin's absence he announces himself as king of Asgard, and then it's later revealed that he allowed the Jotunheim members to get in there to frame Thor and get him banished from Asgard so he can become king in his quote unquote place. The Warriors 3. The Warriors The Warriors 3 want to go look for Thor, led by Lady Sif, want to go look for Thor. However, Loki forbids it. Loki, quote unquote, forbids it. However, they go behind Loki's back anyway, and Heimdall agrees. Heimdall, fed up with Loki's new tyranny and learning that he was the one who, allows him to go, and later faces Loki for the crime, who relieves him of his duty as gatekeeper and freezes him. Then, quote unquote, Loki, then quote unquote, the Warriors 3, they go to Earthrealm, and they confront Thor, and they tell Thor what really happened. Earlier in the film, Loki managed to visit Thor in Earthrealm, with a human disguise, and revealed that, and told him that Odin had quote unquote died, but they told him but the Lady Sif told him Odin lives, and this is where Thor begins to understand. However, the good mood is ruined shortly as Loki sends the Destroyer bot from the comic books to destroy Thor and the Warriors 3. Thor and the Warriors 3, and Thor sacrificing himself and taking the blame for everything he's caused, and finally learning what it means to be a hero is knocked out, and actually I think is swatted away by the Thor machine and killed, and it is here where he finally becomes worthy of millionaire his giant hammer, and gets his armor, everything back, and via tornado makes quick work of the destroyer, makes quick work of the quote unquote destroyer bot, and he parts ways with Jane, but not before forcing Coulson and Shield to give her parts back, and give her quote unquote parts back. But Shield agrees, saying she has to continue her research. Meanwhile, Thor then confronts Loki and reveals to Frida everything that was going on. Before that, Loki betrayed and killed quote unquote Laufey, and Loki reveals and Thor reveals everything going on, and Loki and Thor engage in a huge battle, which Thor manages to win by breaking the Bifrost, and both of them are seen dangling about to fall into the abyss, but Odin wakes them from sleep and rescues both of them. But Loki, not wanting to face punishment for his actions, and not wanting to give up his leadership, decides to take his own life and falls into the abyss, to which he is born by Thor and quote unquote Odin. But the post-credit scene reveals he's still quote unquote alive to set up the next film featuring them, which is the Avengers 2012. But like I said, phenomenal movie, quote unquote movie. This movie has a mixed reception amongst fans. Some like it, some mixed reception amongst fans. It's positively received by critics, but a mixed reception amongst fans. Some like me like it. A lot of people hate it. The only issue I had with this film was most of the film was filmed in the dark, so most of the action sequences, with the exception of the one involving the Destroyer bot, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. They will correct this in future Thor and MCU quote unquote films, but it was a huge problem here. That was the only issue with this awesome film right here. Like I said, this was the last film to do each character justice, and each actor and actress was great. Christian Hemsworth was a phenomenal Thor. Tom Hiddleston was a phenomenal Loki. Idris Elba was awesome as Heimdall. I like how they made Heimdall brown, brown in this universe, when he's a white-skinned human in the white-skinned god in the comic books and mythology. Anthony Hopkins was phenomenal as Odin, and who else? And this was Loki at his quote unquote most powerful in this film, and most powerful. So after this, he would become a lame, bumbling comedy relief villain, later anti-hero. This was Loki at his most powerful. He had his staff. In the future films, he loses his giant staff and instead has a bunch of lean butter knives to fight with. Here he has his gigantic staff, and he was at his most powerful here. Him and all his tricks. The final battle between him and Thor, it was Thor's superhuman strength, lightning and hammer versus Loki's cunning and sorcery, which is what makes their fights and rivalry interesting. The Warriors 3 got showcased here, and in the second one. After the second movie, it would be downhill it will be downhill from here. This is the best one, with the second one being the second best, and the third one being, in my opinion, the third least and worst, the least best and the worst of the quote-unquote trilogy of Ragnarok, which is arguably the third one is arguably the most popular one, but I thought this one right here was quote-unquote best. And people also criticize this film because a lot of people claim that Thor, even though this is how Thor is in the comic books, this Thor just wasn't interesting to quote-unquote people. And while I do like the comedic jokier Thor, I much prefer him to be like how he was here and in the second movie and in the two Avengers movies. The two Avengers movies, the Avengers between and after Dark World. So this was Thor quote unquote 2011, and Jane Foster, if I didn't mention her already, Natalie Portman. This has been her best role since Prince Amidala from quote unquote Star Wars. So Thor 2011, in my opinion, one of my favorite and one of my all-time best Marvel Cinematic Universe films of all time. And like I said, Marvel, they didn't have the rights to Peter Parker, Spider-Man, the X-Men, and the Fantastic Four, so they had to rely on characters like Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and a bunch of B-list heroes. And it goes to show you, with dedication, you can turn B-list, C-list, or Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor were A-list characters, but nobody cared about them before these movies. Goes to show you how great and resourceful Marvel and Disney are. I hate Disney for a lot of things, but when it comes to Marvel-based films, they are quote-unquote unmatched, man. So Thor 2011, phenomenal movie. Now it's time for the sequel, Dark World. Get ready. Now it's time for my review of Thor: The Dark World. Thor: Dark World was a great. Thor: Dark World was a great movie. It was bigger and badder than the first one. It gave us more of the first one, but it also gave us more problems from the first one and the MCU as a whole. But it was still a good filler movie, and believe it or not, I enjoy this movie much. I appreciate and enjoy this movie much more now than I did when I saw it for the first time. Especially when they did the Thor in quote unquote the third movie, and even worse in Avengers Endgame. But Thor Dark World, what a phenomenal film. That lighting problem from the previous Thor film, that lighting problem from the previous Thor movie, they corrected it here, and they corrected it in every MCU movie after this. You can see all of the action clearly in this quote-unquote version. The action is bigger, the action spectacle is bigger and badder than in the first one. There's more quote-unquote action, and while I thought they were showcased better in the first film, the Warriors 3, Vandrel, Lady Sif, Vashtak, and Hogan all received more screen time here in this quote-unquote film. Love the development of Thor. One thing I like about Thor, each film he's been featured in gave you a great Thor, and it was awesome up until Endgame. You had Thor 2011 as Guardian Thor. This is early Thor before he meets the Earthlings and later the Avengers. Then you got experienced warrior, almost king post Avengers Thor, King Thor. Then in quote unquote Ragnarok, you had comedic action hero Thor. Then Avengers in Endgame, you had tragic hero. Avengers Infinity War, you had tragic hero Thor. Then in Endgame we had the worst Thor, drunk beer gut of Thor, the quote unquote worst Thor. But I like how they developed him in each version, in each quote unquote version. This film involves an enemy from Odin's past, Valkyr Malekith, the Dark Elf, Malekith and the Dark Elf and the Dark Elves who want the the Infinity Stone to wipe out and destroy Asgard. Wipe out and destroy Asgard. It's up to Thor. It's up to Thor to. It's up to Thor, the Warriors 3, and Loki, the quote unquote stop him. Quote unquote stop him. Storyline and writing was good. However, one problem I have when it comes to the villain Valkyr, his purpose. Now he wants revenge on Odin for conquering and destroying his world. Yeah. One thing I never like is when villains, unless they're a villain like Cell, Majin Buu, or Shinron, villains who don't need to eat or what you eat or do it or live or don't need food or anything to survive. I never like it when villains just want to destroy for the sake of destroying things. Why don't he try to use the ether and Tesseract to he invaded Asgard easily? Why doesn't he try to enslave and take over Asgard? Since they destroyed your home, why don't you take and claim their home as your own, as your quote unquote own? That's the only issue I have with Malekith. But Malekith he's not meant to be a complex villain. His purpose was to be a filler villain, and people criticize this film for misusing Malekith. I did in the beginning, but once you read Malekith's comic book story on Wikipedia, he's not alive in the comic books. So why would he be alive in the MCU? Why would they keep him around for a long time in the MCU where he's not alive? So that's one issue I have with comic book fans. Fans of the MCU claim they misuse Malekith. He's not alive in the comic books. So why would he be alive here? He served his purpose. He was a good filler villain. Then one thing I like about this film. Hated it at the time, but I appreciate it more now. Actually, no, I still don't like it, but I respect and appreciate it. This film decided, you know what, we're not going to just be a random filler Marvel film, which is what they were. We're going to be more than that. By killing off Frida in this film. Yeah, they killed off Frida, whatever her name is, Thor's mother in this movie. I hate that because I like that character, but I liked how it was done. He decided we weren't going to be a cookie cutter filler Marvel film, which is what I wanted to see and what everyone expected at the time is what this is. But they decided we're going to be more than that by having a filler villain kill off a major character in the quote-unquote comic book and Thor mythos. We got the legendary team up of Loki. We got the legendary team up of Loki and Thor. Only other two problem I have is number one, they wasted. Now I'll talk about that later. The first problem I had was Loki. Yeah, he doesn't have his cool scepter from the previous movies, the Thor 2011 and Avengers 2012. No, his scepter is on Earth with the Avengers, so he gets these lame butter knives to fight with, man. He gets these lame butter knives to fight with. Yeah, that was the first problem I've had. The third problem I've had is this is a gigantic problem in the MCU. In the MCU, in the comic books and cartoons, they can use any Avenger in any Marvel character in any situation. However, here, because of money and contracts, and this is live action, several characters can't be here. They wasted Captain America. They wasted Chris Evans' talents for a pointless, non-credited cameo where Loki turns into him. Instead of having Captain America try to fork over more cash and restructure his contract and have him appear here. Have him appear in this film. But I understand it's a Thor movie. So, well, if not Captain America or any of the other Avengers, this is Thor's movie and his mythos. So why not have the Warriors 3 take the role of the Avengers in this film, since this is a Thor film. The Warriors 3, they were present and got more screen time here, but they were present for the Asgard scenes. They were nowhere to be seen on quote-unquote Earth. They were nowhere to be seen on quote-unquote. They just helped Loki and Thor escape Asgard. They were nowhere to be seen on Earth in the final battle where those characters could have been. You could have had Loki and Thor and the Warriors 3 taking on Valkyr and his men in the final battle. No, instead it was mostly just Thor, Loki, and quote-unquote Jane Jane really didn't fight them. But yeah, Jane and the two comedy reliefs, Darcy and Selvig, who with their science technology managed to transport one to another dimension, to another part of the, well, not a dimension, but another part of the world, another part of the quote unquote world. The comedy reliefs got more screen time in the final battle than the Warriors 3, who are actual warriors and actual characters in the Thor quote-unquote mythos. That's the only other problem I have. You could have made this a straight-up Asgardian Avengers style quote-unquote Asgardian Avengers style quote-unquote movie. So that was the only problem I have. This is the last time the Warriors 3 get to do anything. After this, it's downhill. It's downhill from there. But other than that, everything was good. The final climatic battle between Thor and Malekith's death was badass, and just an awesome film. This film is also funnier than the first one. It's also funnier than the first one, which at first I had a problem with, but now I don't. One problem I have with the humor is that it's supposed to be a super serious superhero epic fantasy film, and you have all this comedy, which kind of just makes the film look bad and second rate. But other than that, great. Great movie. I love Loki's death. They teased us with a Loki's death. Then at the end, a huge spoiler was revealed that Loki faked his death and somehow took over Asgard and has been posing as Odin this time, which is sort of resolved in this third movie. The resolving was a big, huge disappointment because I expected something big. What else about Thor? Oh yeah, Thor. So yeah, Thor the Dark World was also a cue set up to Guardians of the Galaxy. So yeah, that's Thor. That's Thor Dark World. Only other thing is that the villain from Destro from G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra, he returns as the main villain here, Malekith, in this film. That was another interesting thing. So that was Thor the Dark World. One of my all-time favorite Marvel films, and the second best quote unquote Marvel. Second best Thor film of all time. Bigger and badder than the first one, but it also gave us more of what was wrong with the first one and the MCU as a whole. Now we get to what I consider the most overrated, the most entertaining, but highly overrated, crappiest Thor movie of all time, and one of the worst and weakest entries in the MCU, and that was Thor Ragnarok. Now the fans love this, consider this to be the best one due to his new comedic approach. I like this movie, but I think this movie is terrible and quote unquote overrated. Whereas the first two felt like legit superhero fantasy Thor epic films, this film's like a Disney Channel and made for TV sci-fi movie from the Sci-Fi Channel. Sci-fi movie starring Thor and starring Thor and the Marvel characters. Then a legitimate Thor film like the first two felt. This doesn't feel like a comic book movie. Doesn't feel like a comic book quote unquote movie. Secondly, this film wanted to be like Guardians of the Galaxy. As such, there's more jokes and more comedy. Now, I do like the more jokier, comedic Thor. Yeah, Thor reminds me of Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Kurt Russell's character in Big Trouble in Little China, and quote unquote Dolph Lundgren, if I didn't say him already, actor Dolph Lundgren, Chris Hemsworth, actor Dolph Lundgren, and who's the last guy? Oh yeah, Chris Hemsworth character from Ghostbusters 2016. However, one issue I have with this film is that it's way too much fun, way too much comedy, even in moments that should be serious, especially since this film is about the end of the world, Ragnarok. The end of Asgard, Ragnarok is upon them. Is quote unquote upon them. Yet there's so many jokes. The next problem is the Warriors 3. Each of them get wasted, with Hogan getting the most screen time. And Lady Sif, she's never seen again in the MCU. All of her storylines and stuff take place off screen. She snapped out of the existence in Infinity War and brought back to life in Endgame. But her actress is never ever seen again. Is never ever seen again in the MCU. And Hogan, he got wasted, but he lasted the longest against the main antagonist, Hela. Hell, in order to establish this incredibly, in my opinion, incredibly lame and overrated villain, and Hela, they had her quickly kill Vandrel and Vastron instantly by one. She completely one-shotted both of them by stabbing both of them. Hogan lasted the longest before he got killed, and their deaths were never talked about in the film. Their deaths were never talked about or mourned in the film. Thor, he seems to take it okay that his friends were murdered. The only time we get a brief allusion to them is in Infinity War when Rocket asks about friends when Thor reveals that everyone close to him is now officially dead. Is now quote unquote officially dead. What else about Thor? What about Thor 2011? Thor, what you call it? So, yeah, the Warriors 3 straight up wasted here. In a Thor film, you got a chance to be an Asgardian Avengers movie, and the Warriors 3 are big in the books, but here in this MCU, they were straight up wasted here. And their deaths were just straight up jokes, literally. They don't even talk about it in the film. Then third, Hela. Probably one of the MCU's worstest, weakest, and most overrated villain. She was, in my opinion, she was overpowered. I was even shocked when I'm like, this is a bad guy. This seems like a filler made for TV episode villain, not a full-length main antagonist of a quote-unquote movie. Main antagonist or a henchman to another bigger main antagonist in a film. Bigger main antagonist in a film is what this villain felt like. Then when she came, she wanted revenge on Odin and Asgard for using Odin used her to win a bunch of wars. Then when she tried to take over Odin saw how evil she was, and I think she imprisoned him, and only Odin's presence on Asgard kept her but since Odin was no longer on Asgard because of the actions of Loki, she's back now. And then when she comes back, she instead of once again taking over and just ruling Asgard diplomatically, now she goes in and starts killing the very people she wants to rule. She comes in killing everyone. What does that make her king? What does that make her queen or ruler of? Another cliche I get sick of with bad guys is them killing their own allies, or in this case, killing the people they're not your allies, but they're the very people you want to rule. So instead of claiming Asgard the right way, she does it by quote-unquote force. And when she kills people, she creates a couple of lame minions of her own for the other characters in the film. Other characters, like new characters like Valkyrie, portrayed by Tessa. I keep forgetting her name, but she's Michael B. Jordan's love interest in Creed. Keep forgetting her name. And then you got Bruce Banner, the War World Hulk, which was pretty cool. He's in this film. Heimdall is in this film. He's good. And Korg, you got Korg, one of the MVPs of this film, the rock-skinned monster. I'm surprised was a character in the comic book. He seems like something that was specifically created for this film right here. Korg, what's his name? Korg. Yeah, Loki. I mentioned Loki. Loki is a straight-up comedy relief villain here. He is totally downhill here, and it's even worse than when we get to the next one, Infinity War. He is just a comedy relief villain who gets outsmarted by Thor and Doctor Strange multiple times. And he gets outsmarted by Thor multiple times. First in the beginning, when Thor is easily able to recognize that Loki is posing as Odin. Then later, Doctor Strange straight owns him. Doctor Strange owns him. Doctor Strange's cameo, all he did was point Thor into the right direction. His cameo was kind of, it wasn't a waste, but it was just, it wasn't pointless, but it was just a waste. You could have did more with his character. When I heard Doctor Strange was going to be, I'm like, oh, what presence is he going to have? And this was just to point him in the right direction. Oh yeah, Thor and Jane Foster's relationship is addressed off screen, with Jane breaking up with him off screen. So like I said, so much crap, so much awesome stuff that was built up in the first two movies just seen going to waste here. Then we got the Planet Scar scene with Jeff Goldblum. Some of this stuff was entertaining. We get Loki getting outsmarted again by Thor and being left for dead, but being freed by Korg, where Loki's been outsmarted so much and it's such a joke now. He's now a hero. He's too bumbling and stupid to be a villain now. He's now an anti-hero. In the final battle, he could fight the weak minions. He couldn't fight the main boss or be the main boss himself, like in the previous movies. His only goal was to get the crown, and he also stole the Tesseract, leading to the events of the opener of Avengers Infinity War, so they could call Surtur to bring ruin to Asgard and kill quote unquote Hela for them, and Asgard is quote unquote destroyed. I do like how all this leads up into the next film, Infinity War. A comedic movie leads up into a super serious one. Infinity War had the coldest opening ever, and it was the follow-up to this movie right here. So yeah, that was Thor. What you call it? Favorite and best moment was Loki, was Thor's, when Odin motivates him and Thor has his Super Saiyan 2 Raiden from Mortal Kombat, Lightning God, and Psycho Power and Bison from Street Fighter moment, where he remembers he's the god of thunder, has this huge power up and takes out each of the quote unquote guards, takes out each of Hela's guards while still failing against her quote unquote self. Yeah. Carl Urban had a role in this film as the character Scourge, who at first is a hero, then later he's a villain, then later he decides he wants to be a hero again too. It was cool, but I wish they could have focused on him and developed him better. But yeah, they were too busy focusing on bad jokes and stuff. So yeah, this was Thor Ragnarok. Now let me get my thoughts on the upcoming Thor film, Thor: Love and Thunder. This, in my opinion, will be the best Thor movie since the first one. I've seen the screen. I haven't seen the trailer yet, but I've seen the leak shots of Thor, of Christian Hemsworth in the Thor costume, and Natalie Portman making her return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe franchise after leaving them over a Raw deal. She now makes her return. Thor: Love and Thunder was one of the Thor movies I was looking forward to the most post phase 3 and into phase 4 for Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it was good. Then we got the Guardians of the Galaxy, which was teased at the end of Infinity War and sort of built up at the end of Endgame, and sort of built up in Infinity War when Thor met the Guardians of the Galaxy. So we'll get Thor and Peter Quill's rivalry in this film. I can't wait to see what the Guardians of the Galaxy, their role will be in one of their final appearances before their final movie, and they're done. And I guess they're done as a team in the MCU. So yeah, I can't wait for Thor: Love and Thunder. I can't wait. I gotta take the time to watch the trailer, and then maybe I'll do an individual video giving my thoughts on the Witch God. Because unlike Doctor Strange, Thor, which is already here, Multiverse of Madness is here. Thor, I got some time. I got several weeks and a couple of months before that quote unquote gets here. So yeah, Thor: Love and Thunder. Can't wait, man. Can't wait for Thor: Love and Thunder. So yeah, this has been my quote unquote Oh no, one more thing in Infinity, in Ragnarok. One thing I also do like about Ragnarok. For years I've heard of this band, Led Zeppelin, but I've never listened to any music from them. This song, one of their iconic songs, Immigration, is featured here, and it fits this movie right here. One of the reasons these movies have a lot of copyrighted music, so that's why you don't hear anything in the background. But Thor, but Thor Ragnarok made me a fan of Led Zeppelin. I've always wanted to get into Led Zeppelin, but I never took the time to listen to their music. This movie made me a fan of them and fully gave me a full introduction to them. Well, this has been Thor, my Thor Trilogy review and thoughts on Love and Thunder. You don't hear the rest of the music, turn the video off now. There will be a tie-in review where I'll review these film series with a bunch of comic books associated with them in the future. So with that being said, you don't hear the rest of the music, turn the video off right now.